Look at you. Sitting there wondering, what are we going to discuss today on the Comparison Group Podcast? The Comparison Group Podcast. The podcast for discussion and not debate. Listen on Apple, iTunes, and Spotify.
Pando killed the beat.
So many topics to discuss. I've been threatening to talk about bisexual Superman. Well, today is going to be that day. I should say something about OMICRON, shouldn't I? We had yet another school shooting. Tragedy. Chris Cuomo got himself fired from CNN. I got a lot of comments from my last show. People didn't like what I said about Beto O'Rourke. People did like when I got condescending about wearing a mask to prevent COVID. I could be that entertaining all the time, but I choose not to. Stacey Abrams is running for governor of Georgia again. Okay. Jackie Johnson, the prosecutor who did not arrest the men who killed Ahmaud Arbery, has been charged with violating her oath of office and obstruction. Took 74 days for an arrest to be made in that case, and Jackie Johnson is considered to be the reason for that. So she'll go on trial, face charges over it. So much to talk about. Let's start the show. Now, let me start off with an apology, because I failed you. I messed up. I did 2 shows, maybe a show and a half, on Kyle Rittenhouse without once mentioning Darrell Brooks. And I made this mistake. I had this oversight for the same reason I caution you that you should consume different forms of media. You should get your information from different sources. Well, I wasn't paying much attention to conservative media for a week or so. And for that reason, watching CNN or MSNBC, even though I wasn't watching much media at all, but it's no excuse, watching CNN and MSNBC, the name Darrell Brooks wasn't being mentioned very often over there. It was over on Fox News. And so when I turned on the Fox News, after not watching very much of it after a week, I realized, Darrell Brooks. I didn't mention him. I should have mentioned him in those shows about Kyle Rittenhouse and the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict, to be fair. Now, if you're sitting out there saying, who in the heck is Darrell Brooks? Well, you have the same problem that I had. Darrell Brooks was charged with intentional homicide after driving his red SUV through a crowded street commemorating the holiday season, claiming 6 lives of those ages 8 to 81 and injuring dozens more. So we all heard the story. Crazy guy drives his car through a Christmas parade, just mows people down, kills people. Now, this happened in Waukesha, not too far from Kenosha, where the Rittenhouse trial had ended, the verdict had been given within a few days. So naturally, people's minds went to, was this some type of retaliation over the Rittenhouse verdict? The answer is, I don't know. We don't know. But that's where people's mind immediately went to. So far, as best as I can tell, there has been no evidence that this was some type of a hate crime or a response to the Rittenhouse verdict. This particular idiot was, quote unquote, fleeing. And I say quote unquote because the police say they weren't pursuing him, but he was leaving a domestic violence incident. And so maybe he knew the police had been called and he felt, well, I better get the heck out of here. And he took off tearing down the street. Police said they did fire 1 shot at the vehicle. So they saw him coming. They knew he was coming. They fired 1 shot at the vehicle, but did not continue to fire for safety's sake. didn't want to hit any innocent bystanders with gunfire. So, of course, he mowed down people, Christmas parade people, older people, younger people, just everyone. Just a horrible, horrible scene. And CNN decided to cover the story and even tweet out that a car had killed people in a Christmas parade. Hang on, here's the exact tweet from CNN. Waukesha will hold a moment of silence today, marking 1 week since a car drove through a city Christmas parade, killing 6 people and injuring scores of others. CNN took a lot of criticism for that tweet, saying a car drove through a city Christmas parade. CNN later did change the tweet to read, Waukesha will hold a moment of silence Sunday 1 week after a man plowed a vehicle through a Christmas parade. So yeah, CNN with interesting coverage of this, to say the least. And they're taking a lot of criticism, as you can imagine, over on Fox News. Fox News asking the question, why won't CNN say the man's name? Why won't CNN talk about whether or not this was retaliation for the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict? Why won't CNN discuss whether or not this was a hate crime? Now, Fox News, they've got all the answers to all those questions. It's a hate crime. It's Black Lives Matter. It's Antifa. It's whatever you want it to be over on Fox News. Again, I don't know. I think the guy was just a jerk. I think he was just an a-hole. He had a long criminal history, shouldn't have been out on the street, and maybe he was even mentally ill. Now, if his social media had some things that were favorable or supportive of Black Lives Matter or anti-white, did that contribute to what he did? Again, it doesn't appear so. Not this particular incident. You know, two things can be true at the same time. This guy could be a racist, hates white people, supports Black Lives Matter, and also just ran down people because he's a jerk, because he's an a-hole, not because he was looking to commit a hate crime on that particular day anyway, or was retaliating for the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict. Fox News wants it to be that. Fox News wants to know why CNN doesn't want it to be that, but it just doesn't have to be. Racists do sometimes commit other crimes that have nothing to do with being a racist. But in any case, let me answer the question for Fox News. Let me explain to Fox News why CNN has ignored, for the most part, the Darrell Brooks story or covered it in a very different way. It's because CNN is biased. MSNBC is biased. One American News is biased. Newsmax is biased. ABC News is biased. And Fox News is biased. As Warren Buffett said, and I've repeated it here many times, the bias is to profit. They're covering news in a way that attracts their desired target market. It's what Fox News does. So watching Fox News criticize another news outlet for bias is like watching Chris Christie put on a headband and a Fitbit. It just doesn't make any sense. It's confusing and annoying. So why don't we stop annoying one another by having to point out when Fox News doesn't cover a Biden achievement or CNN doesn't talk enough about Hunter Biden? If I miss something here on this show, I'll do my best to correct it, like I'm doing now with Darrell Brooks. But I'm sure sometimes I may seem biased because I can't talk about everything or I can't know everything that's going on. I just try and give you a good mix. That's all we can hope for from the for-profit media. Let's stop pretending they're going to do any better than a mostly biased point of view with a fairly decent mix of information. That's them, not me. I'm going to give you a fantastic mix of information with a somewhat unbiased point of view. For instance, what else? Let's look at this. I see Stacey Abrams is going to be running again for governor of Georgia. Now, I like that. Go, Stacey. You go, girl. I'm a fan of hers. I like Stacey Abrams. She's sharp as a tack. She's moderate. She's not too extreme for me. I think she's got a real good chance of becoming governor of Georgia. Beto O'Rourke, on the other hand, like I said, people didn't like my commentary. Didn't like my commentary on the last show about Beto O'Rourke and his chances of becoming governor of Texas. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. If you want to go down this road, let's go down this road. Let's listen to some of Beto O'Rourke's positions.
Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47.
That's it. There you go. That's all his positions. Oh, no, he says more stuff. I took that completely out of context, of course, but that's what's going to be played over and over and over and over again in the election in Texas. That clip, out of context, is what voters will hear over and over again in Texas. And if you're wondering if Beto has an answer for saying that, he does, and it's a horrible answer. It's a horrible answer. When he declared that he was going to run for governor, he did a little town hall type of thing, local community, sit down, and someone asked him, how are you going to respond to saying that? And he gave a horrible answer. And I don't mean horrible as in a bad answer. I mean horrible as in I'm not going to play it for you because it would put you to sleep. And you can hear similar answers from Beto on his positions on abortion and immigration. Horrible answers. Horrible as in bad? No, not at all. Long, intelligent, well thought out policy positions. Aw, bless your hearts, liberals. I think it's adorable that you think any of that matters. You know what? Play Beto's position on guns again, and then I'm going to play the current governor, Greg Abbott, his position on guns. First, play Beto's.
Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47.
Okay, now play Texas Governor Greg Abbott's position on guns.
Yeah, Yosemite Sam, the roughest, toughest He-Man, toughest hombre has ever crossed the Rio Grande. And I ain't no mamby-pamby. Now all of you skunks, clear out of here.
Now, did you hear the difference? Did you hear there's a big difference? And I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but that's the reality. And again, I'm sure that Beto O'Rourke is an intelligent, well-meaning person. Just like Alexandria, what do we need with infrastructure in New York, Ocasio-Cortez is an intelligent, well-meaning person. But they don't seem to know how to play the game. They haven't seemed to figure out what I constantly say. Be less smart and be more clever. When Ted Cruz beat Beto in a Senate race a few years ago, it wasn't because Ted Cruz was smarter. It wasn't because Ted Cruz had better answers in the debate. It was because Ted Cruz knew the game. He knew how to play the game, and he knew how to play the voters of Texas. And so will Governor Greg Abbott when things like critical race theory come up, and immigration come up, and abortion come up. Beto O'Rourke is going to struggle mightily. He's also going to struggle because the left insist on going after the voters they already have. They insist on it. Beto O'Rourke will go after the black vote, which he's already got, and he'll go after the Hispanic vote, which he also already has. Because why? I got to make sure they turn out. I got to get them to turn out. I know I got their vote. I know they're going to vote for me, but I got to make sure they turn out. I got to excite them. I got to get them fired up. I got to get them to believe if they elect me, I'm going to do something for them. Their lives are going to get better. And all of that pandering to the black vote and the Hispanic vote does what? Pushes Beto to the left, to the far left, in a state that is on the right. How do you win like that? You don't, which is why I said he ain't going to win. Moving on. Just some brief comments about COVID. Why not? Oh, if anyone who doesn't like me talking about COVID would like to turn off the show, you can turn it off, I would say, for about the span of, let's say 4 minutes. No, you know what? Actually, don't turn it off. Leave it on. I don't think any of this will offend you. I just have brief comments. And my comments are, two thoughts, actually. We have this new variant, OMICRON, named after the Greek letter. That's how they're naming these variants, after Greek letters. The WHO began naming the variants after Greek letters to avoid public confusion and stigma. Okay, great job. Should it be settling in now that COVID ain't going nowhere anytime soon? Given the fact this is a worldwide pandemic, with mutations that seem to spread faster than herpes at a 2 Live Crew concert, how do we stop it? As of September 2021, 16 countries had vaccinated 70% of their population. They were small countries. Countries like Malta, the UAE, Iceland, Denmark, Spain. Now, Spain has fully, up to this point, Spain has fully vaccinated 80% of its citizens. They feel like they could soon get rid of some of the remaining restrictions, the remaining COVID restrictions, such as kids wearing masks while in class. They feel like they might be able to get rid of those restrictions. So my question is, Spain has seen a significant drop in hospitalizations and positive cases with the 80% vaccination rate, but why is it still so touch and go? Wouldn't you think with an 80% vaccination rate, when you combine that with people who have COVID or have recently had COVID, you would think you would have a pretty good herd immunity going that you can feel confident we got rid of COVID in Spain and it ain't coming back. So why is that not the case? Why can't these countries with such a high vaccination rate just stamp out the virus once and for all? Why do there seem to always be surges, even in states like New Jersey or New York, states that have a pretty good vaccination rate? They seem to always go through surges. There seem to always be surges. Again, it's not just the vaccination rate. We have to take into account the people who have had COVID and have a certain number of months of immunity, along with people who had COVID and don't even know they had COVID. We have to assume there's a ton of people out there like that got COVID, didn't know they had it, but they still should have the immunity from having had it. So why is this virus so tough to get rid of? And I know you can say, well, the vaccination rate may be high in New York or New Jersey or California or Oregon, but if it's not high in neighboring states, I know, I get all that. I get all the people coming in and out, but still, with a high vaccination rate, with people at this point, over this length of time since COVID started, having some level of immunity, I'm asking. I don't know. I don't have the answer. Fauci, stop fighting with Rand Paul long enough to explain to me. With all the vaccines, all the other drugs, the Regeneron, the pill, what's that pill you can take to keep you out of the hospital, the at-home test kits, with all of these things, we're getting better. But man, why doesn't it seem like we're never going to get over that hump? I'll tell you what would be nice. It would be nice to know for a fact and clearly what's going on in China. Because China, you want to talk about vaccine mandate. Oh, if you live in China, there is no option to not get the vaccine. Everyone gets the vaccine in China. And China is a good comparison because China has the population, they have the economy, they could get the vaccine in a high quantity, get the amount they needed, get it early on, just like the U.S. So it would be nice to compare China, even though their population is much more, I get it, but compare China to the U.S., where there were strict restrictions placed on the population of China. What is the positivity rate in China? What is the hospitalization rate in China? It'd be nice to know, but we can't always believe what they tell us, unfortunately. But in China, if you got sick with COVID, or you didn't even have to get sick with COVID, there was a story of a woman who was in contact with someone who tested positive with COVID. They take you out of your home. They don't let you quarantine on your own. They don't trust you. They take you somewhere to quarantine you. When they talk about lockdown, they mean lockdown. They take you and they lock you up for quarantine. This woman hadn't even tested positive. But that ain't all. They then went to her home. This is on video. This was on video on the internet. I don't know if it's still up there. They went to her home and killed her dog in case her dog was positive. Now, if you're an animal lover, cover your ears. They didn't go in and catch the dog and say, okay, come on, dog, we're going to go and put you down humanely. No, when I say they went in that house and killed that dog, they went in that house and killed that dog. So that's what's going on in China. You want to talk about freedom. So what's the result of all that? Is China, have they come close to stamping out COVID once and for all? It would be nice to know. Now, as far as the school shooting, What can I say? What do you want me to say? It's all said over and over again. The same repetitive left-wing talking points, right-wing talking points. What can I say? I can ask, and I don't know if anyone's thought about this. This time of year, I wonder how many toy guns will be sold during Christmas. I wonder how many toy guns are sold in this country. Guns of all types, squirt guns, cap guns, space laser guns. I'm not criticizing the people who buy toy guns for their kids, and I'm not even being anti-gun. I'm just wondering, I'm just asking, does it seem weird for us to buy toy guns for kids? People need guns for hunting, or people enjoy hunting with guns, but what's that got to do with a cap gun or a little squirt gun or some kind of crazy-looking space laser gun? People need guns for home security. Okay. I guess a toy gun is more fun to play with than a keypad from Simply Safe. It's just odd. It's just odd to me. And it always comes back to the Constitution. It's the Constitution. Constitution can't do anything about the Constitution. It really is amazing how some people interpret this Constitution. You can't take something away from someone because it's in the Constitution. And you also can't give something to someone, an abortion, because it's not in the Constitution. That's what's being argued, part of what's being argued in the Supreme Court right now. It's being questioned and being argued, should abortion in this country be legal, given that there's nothing in the Constitution that gives a woman a right to an abortion. So in other words, hey, how come the founders didn't think to put abortion in the Constitution? Now, I'm not giving my opinion one way or the other. I'm just saying that seems to be an interesting way to argue something, that the founders didn't think to write into the Constitution, all women in this country have the legal right to get an abortion. You know, there were several other things the founders didn't consider putting into the Constitution to give the legal right of women to do. You do realize that, don't you? Some of them we had to make a little adjustment on later. So again, I don't take a position one way or the other. I think it's wrong. I think sometimes people feel they can take a position, but then you never know. When you're faced with the situation, your position could very well change. You don't know. You may feel one way when you're talking hypothetically, but when you're in the actual position to make that decision, who knows? Your position may very well change. So I don't take a position one way or the other. I don't think it's fair. What I would like to see is the argument stop being framed as pro-choice versus pro-life. Everyone's pro-life. Who's not pro-life? Everyone's pro-life. Everyone's pro-choice. We're finding out more than ever. There are quite a few people who are pro-choice that maybe we didn't think were pro-choice. Now they have the answer when they say, my body, my choice. And you ask them, well, then how can you be against abortion? They will tell you, well, that's my body, my choice when it comes to the vaccine. When it comes to abortion, it's two bodies. It's not one body. That's the way they see it. They see it as one body and then a separate body. And that separate body, you get what I'm saying? So that's the way, agree or disagree with them, that's the way they see it. That's how they answer that question, in case you're wondering. How they can say, my body, my choice, and still be against abortion. I'm meandering here. How did I get on abortion? I was talking about guns. Two of the most divisive topics you can talk about, I'm talking about at the same time, guns and abortion. What am I, nuts? But back to guns. Again, what more can I say? The Constitution argument, how many times can you just go in circles, round and round and round, round and round and round, the right to bear arms, and then the yeah, but, and the analogy, not going to do it. All I'll say is I'm glad to see that there's been some accountability handed out to the parents of this young man who shot his classmates. I do think it's time that we start to recognize if there are adults letting children get access to guns, the parents need to be held accountable, and there has to be some responsibility placed on those parents or adults. So I'm glad to see that that's happening. And I can't imagine any Second Amendment advocate would disagree with that. Owning guns comes with responsibility. You understand that. So let's wrap up with Superman's bisexual son. In the upcoming book, Superman, son of Kal-El, Superman's son, John Kent, who currently holds the title of Superman, which I realize now is why sometimes you hear Superman's bisexual son and sometimes you hear bisexual Superman, because he's both. Apparently, in the current iteration, he is the Superman. So the younger Kent will kiss his friend and hacktivist Jay Nakamura in the number 5 issue out November 9th. Now, I assume this was greeted with positive feedback and praise for DC Comics, and so we can go ahead and wrap up the show. Oh, no? Really? All right, play the clips.
Superman bisexual DC comic book toy that was announced today. Finally, a place know where to go.
Well, that comes after a gay Aquaman, a bisexual boy Wonder, Robin, and a gender-fluid Loki. Call me when they have a gender-stable aisle with superheroes whose sexualities we know nothing about. Why are they sexualizing superheroes? You know, I was a Batman and a Superman, Spider-Man kid. I loved those heroes. We just wanted them to get the bad guys, not a venereal disease.
For me, perhaps in weeks, is Superman. We all know, don't we, Clark Kent, married to Lois Lane, the great superhero, described by one of his filmmakers as one of the most heterosexual role models he'd ever seen. Well, on the endangered species list are alpha males. It's just, you're not allowed to be like that anymore.
And DC Comics has made it very clear that they are a failing company that at this point is just reliant on publicity stunts. And now they have sacrificed the greatest superhero, the most iconic superhero of all time in Superman, at the altar of identity politics and wokeness. When Tom Taylor came out and made this announcement, our hashtag Superman comes out. Happy hashtag coming out day at DC Comics. And you see Superman, John Kent Superman, who is the Superman in the current iteration of DC Comics right now, kissing a pink-haired freak, a pink-haired dude. This is what DC Comics has become. And there was obviously so many people on Twitter liking this and sharing this, saying it's incredible for representation. I never felt like I'd been represented before I saw one of these characters get their complete legacy destroyed by making them gay. And of course, yeah, they say bisexual. Do you really think after they do this, they're going to have them go back to just being with chicks, being attracted to chicks? I don't think so. Something tells me that won't be the case.
Something tells me you're thinking about this way too much. These people lost their minds. I could go on and on and on with clips. Fox, One American News, Newsmax, Dean Cain, who played Superman on TV, he came on and he talked like he was really Superman. Like Dean Cain did not seem to be aware that he had played a character on TV. He thought he was really Superman. He even referred to my daughter, meaning the daughter of the character Superman. He referred to her as his daughter. This is how wacky. These people were made over an announcement of an imaginary character coming out as bisexual. And so you know what comes next. You can guess what comes next. Cops reportedly protect DC staff, that's DC Comics, DC staff after Superman's son comes out as bisexual. TMZ reported that Los Angeles Police Department officers were sent to the homes of illustrators, production staff, and the studio because of threats made in reaction to the news. Condescending alert. I'm about to get condescending. To the people freaking out about bisexual Superman, just so you know, these are not real people. They are characters that live in the imaginations of creative people. Superman is a totally made-up imaginary character. You are under no obligation whatsoever to expose yourself to this totally made-up character if it bothers you. If you're concerned with your children or others being exposed, understand your children are real people. And if they are in some way exposed to bisexual Superman, it might just make life easier for them, especially if they happen to be LGBTQ. Real people, LGBTQ, not made up imaginary character, LGBTQ. Your children are not imaginary. They're real, and they need your help and support. And if anyone should belittle them, bully them, or threaten them for being LGBTQ, I will hope you'll defend them in the same way you're defending a comic book character. And if you can't manage that, could you at least pretend to have the same level of outrage for a kid that goes and shoots up a school and kills his classmates as you do for bisexual Superman? What am I doing? I talked about guns, abortion, and gay stuff on this show. I may as well be Don Lemon. What am I doing? That's all right. I got to go where the news takes me, don't I? Hopefully you find it interesting. I don't even care if you like it, as long as you find it interesting. Now listen to me now. Pay attention. Get your pen and paper out. I know how a lot of you schedule your lives around this show. Next week. I thought there was going to be a bigger music break there. Sorry. Next week will be the fourth quarter payoff show. That's right. We're going to do it early. Next week will be the fourth quarter payoff show because the following week after that, what is this music? The following week will be a big Christmas gift bonus show to end the year for my listeners. I will be delivering a Comparison Group Podcast Christmas gift to my loyal listeners. So you don't want to miss that one. And that's it. That's it for the year. I'm taking the last week of December off. You're not going to work me nearly half to death on this show. I'm not going to do it. So next week, fourth quarter payoff show, which you know means the fourth quarter quiz. If you've missed any shows, you better go back and brush up. You don't want to fail the fourth quarter quiz. Following week, big Christmas bonus show. And that's it. I'll see you in the new year. All right? You got it? Good. Now, visit the website, This music is killing me. It's killing me. Holy smokes. www.thecomparisongroup.com. No, sometimes I don't listen to all the music all the way through. Sounds good in the beginning, I play it. What do you want from me? I'm a one-man show here. I'm doing everything. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. www.thecomparisongroup.com. Follow me on Twitter @comparison_show. @comparison_show. Please look for the show on the new network I joined. It's www.podbreed.com. I apologize for getting the web address wrong last show. It's www.podbreed.com, or you can go to the app stores and download the Podbreed app. You can always find me, as always, on Apple Podcast or iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcast, Amazon Music, anywhere where you get podcasts. Please share the show. If you go to any of those places, including my website, and listen to the show there, you can always copy the link of the show. There's always somewhere, if you look around, to copy the link of the show. You can share it on your Facebook. You can copy the link and you can text it to someone for all I care. But please share the show so that I can stop cleaning toilets. I'm begging you. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.